I'm Bambi Francisco with Vader TV, the network for innovators, and I'm here with Richard Jalachandra. He's the CEO of Technorati, and this is our second interview. We're going to be discussing Technorati's business model, enhancements to the platform. Richard, thank you for joining me again.
No problem.
Let's talk a little bit about the business model.
Okay.
Now with the ad network, is Technorati going to be focusing more on, say, display ads? Is that going to be your biggest priority and biggest focus?
Sure, but if you take a little bit of a step up for a second, our business model is kind of twofold. We obviously have this fantastic destination site called Technorati.com, which kind of will operate as its own business unit. Then we have this other unit called Technorati Media, which is the ad network and monetization for the company. And in fact, Technorati.com is just another client of Technorati Media, a publishing client.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the real model is an ad-driven model. We believe that brand advertising works very, very well in the blogosphere. If you think about the nature of blog content, it's very much like any other kind of premium mainstream media content. Generally, blogs develop a very trusted voice and a loyal audience. So it's very ripe for brand advertising.
But these are not just the blogs with a few people looking and reading. I mean, you're looking at bigger blog networks or with a big audience, correct? I mean, that's what advertisers will put their ads on.
Sure. But advertisers are also becoming aware that their audience is going to much more fragmented media experiences.
So are they willing to actually put it on a blog where they're not really able to control
I've been told by the president of one of the largest agencies in the world that they've had fantastic success doing brand advertising on blogs. However, their challenge is they can never find enough audience. So they'll find a couple of great blogs, but they might only have a couple 100,000 unique visitors or whatever, so they can't reach their reach objectives.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's an area where we can help them because, again, if you go back to the type of data that we have, we know pretty much where every blog is and what they're about.
Right. So as a you have this Technorati Media now, and you're looking out for publishers who have content and maybe in the mid to long tail. So what's in it for them? What are you going to give them in terms of the CPMs? What can you get them? And then how do you split that with them?
Well, today, in the long tail, there's really one primary advertising option, and it's called Google AdSense. So
you have the Pubmatics, you've got the
sure, but the smaller the blog, the less, the more challenging it is to develop that kind of relationship. You need a significant amount of traffic. What we can do is we can help aggregate and supply some advertising solutions and really focus further down the tail than a lot of networks are willing to go. So, I mean, a good example is, I think you mentioned Federated. How are we different than Federated, for example? Federated to date has done a fabulous job targeting the top couple hundred blogs. I think they've got about 160, 170 blog publishers in their network. They have all the top tier brands, the highest traffic, many of the highest traffic blogs. That's a very different model than where I think Technorati is going to go. I think our natural advantage running a search engine is being able to go below the head, down to the shoulders, torso, and through the rest of the tail. So I think that's where our positioning will be.
So wait a minute, is it automated? I mean, you're talking kind of the search model. I mean, you have a search model. Do you even when you have search? I don't know if you have a search model. Is that something that Technorati should have had from the start? Is that something you're going to institute going forward?
Well, the first phase of Technorati Media is more of we're kind of doing a phased-in approach. We didn't want to just turn on the floodgates because we're still a startup. I mentioned earlier that we're, I think 38 people.
That raised about $20 million or so.
And it's you want to make sure that you scale it at the right speed. So we've been very careful. We've only signed up, like I said, somewhere between 35 and 40 sites Typically, most of these sites are a little bit larger in scale than where we'll be going in very short order. But that's going to require some automation. So that's kind of what we're working on right now is a more automated ad platform.
Okay. But so is it going to be similar to sort of an AdSense and AdWords type of, is that where you're trying to go? Or is it a branded advertising is going to be the majority of the revenue that's
I would never want to compete with Google.
Right, right.
But basically, we're building our own sales team out, and I think this platform will also allow us to work with a number of other partners to deliver good ads.
So you're not going to have an automated fashion where a publisher can go in or an advertiser can go and create their own ads that show up on when you type in the keyword? No.
No.
Okay.
No, we were not going to go to keyword advertising per se.
What are some of the metrics you look at? That searches, number of searches that are being done daily?
No. I mean, when you look at kind of a brand advertising model, it's really simple.
How many eyeballs?
It's not just the number of eyeballs, but it's the number of ad impressions that you have as well.
Okay.
So it's those two metrics: unique visitors and ad impressions. It's really an inventory game.
And they are?
Well, as I said, our network today reaches over 40 million unique visitors.
Okay.
We've probably got well over 500 million ad impressions available to us. But again, we just launched the network 2 months ago, so that's where we're starting. And where we're going, who knows? I don't know how big the numbers will get. It's just a question of how fast and how furious we can build it.
So let's just talk a little bit about the platform now that as you focus, really start focusing on building out your sales force. Some could criticize your company for possibly ignoring maybe some of the platform stuff that you should probably focus on. And I've used Technorati for a long time, but there have been times where I've been somewhat trying to figure out sort of how relevant these blog posts or these blogs that you're collecting. And so I don't know, is that fair? I mean, I don't think I'm the only one that's sort of criticizing the platform.
Sure.
But is there work to be done there? And if so, what are you doing?
Yeah, there's absolutely a lot of work to be done there. Okay. I don't think you ever reach an end point on that. So there's a number of things that we're doing. As I mentioned earlier, we're splitting the company into two operating groups. So Technorati.com and all the search infrastructure resides in one group.
Who will be operating that, or will there be someone there?
There's a number of people operating that. We have some really talented people working there. The other thing, in response to some of the feedback we've gotten, we've rededicated ourselves to search. That's something that kind of gets lost when you're starting Technorati Media, is all the things that we've done. So, for example, 2 weeks ago we launched a new crawler that will greatly reduce the number of spam results that hit the results, as well as improve the accuracy and relevancy of the results. We're also completely overhauling the search infrastructure to make it much faster, more efficient. And just, to put it in perspective, the site Technorati.com today, on average, is 2.5 times faster than it was 1 year ago. So there's a lot that we're actually doing that we're never going to get all the credit for, but it is a lot better if you just look at the pure metrics. Are you better than Google Blog Search, and if so, why? I wouldn't say. I mean, it's hard to be better than Google at a lot of things. I think we're very different. There's some things that they do quite well from a user experience, but I think one of the really neat things that we have that they don't is the Technorati Authority ranking. I mean, that's a true distinctive trademark of ours. Okay, so you'll be bubbling them up to the top. Are you still doing that, or have you changed it, or are you going to improve it to be able to find the authorities out there? Yes, the blogs with authority? Absolutely. And I think what you'll see over, probably I'd like to say about the next 90 days, is you'll see developments on both the Technorati.com and the Technorati Media front that, back to the pure search thing, search will be more prominent than it's ever been on the site. Good. I mean, search is huge, right? Yep. It's Twitter actually just bought a company called Surmise, which
And I remember writing about when they made the acquisition that I found all the other search engines to be rather stale. Because now with this microblogging, you really could get, as Jack Dorsey, the CEO, would say, sort of the state of the web, and it changes the whole search paradigm. And so, do you? And Google's sort of broad search looks stale now. The bloggers, even the Technorati one, sort of looks stale. What do you? I mean, do you see Twitter's search as competitive, and how do you? Do you see yourself, Technorati search, as adding a different, adding value?
The whole thing with, first of all, I love what Twitter does. I'm a big fan. I use it. I tweet. Therefore, I am. But I think it's very different. It's a very different reading experience when you're reading a stream of consciousness of, 50-character tweets versus somebody who's written a very thoughtful 500-word essay in a blog post. So I think they're quite different, both incredibly useful. That's
true. I agree with you. So, who would you consider as some of your biggest competitors? We talked a little bit about Federated Media on that side, Google on the Federated Media on the Technorati Media side, and Google Blog Search on the Google on the blog side, blog search side. Anyone else there that?
The thing about the internet is you're in competition with a lot of people, but you're also in competition with a lot of people. So while you could say that Federated, for example, is a competitor, I also look at them as a potential partner as well. And in fact, every time I see or talk to John Battelle, I thank him very much for really being at the vanguard of creating advertising on blogs or creating the concept in brand marketers. They've done us all a great service as we kind of follow along in their wake. So while there's their competition, they've also been incredibly helpful to us, and I think in some ways we might be helpful to them too.
You won't move.
What's that?
You won't move to their level, and they won't move down to.
I don't know if it'll end up being that.
Boxes.
But,
that clean.
Sure.
You've raised a total of $20 million. Are you planning to raise more funds? We talked about a lot of initiatives. So what are you looking to do?
We've actually raised $29 million.
Oh, I'm sorry, $29 million.
We just closed our D round in May.
Okay.
I'm hoping that for our current plans that we're good to go. You never know. There's other business opportunities out there. In my past, I certainly was involved in a number of transactions where we raised a lot of money, both debt and equity.
What was your valuation?
For Technorati?
Mm-hmm.
I can't say we're a privately traded company, but there's plenty of places where you can find estimates.
In ballpark?
The ballpark's across the street from our office. We're at 3rd and Townsend. So.
And when will you reach profitability? I mean, with the money that you have, is that your plan?
Sure. Profitability is one of those things where when you're in a fast-growing startup, it's kind of a choice as to when and where and whatnot. If we could dial it back, we could probably get to profitability relatively soon. But we're trying to grow a very scalable, large business.
What are your plans? What are you planning?
I would estimate it's confusing because you go run rate profitable for a couple of months here, and then because of some seasonality, it goes away. But then it becomes permanently run rate profitable at a certain point. But let's just say somewhere towards the latter part of 2009.
Good. And then revenue, what are you doing?
Again, we're a privately traded company, and I don't give
single digits, double digits in terms of annual. You don't want to talk about that?
We're doing a little bit better than single digits.
You were at ING when it was sold to Fox Interactive Media for $650 million as an acquisition and the exit for Technorati.
We would love to be comparable. And in some respects, I feel as confident about what we're doing at Technorati as I did when I joined IGN. And one of the great things about the IGN story is when I started there, we were still publicly traded. We had about a $12 million market cap when I joined, and 30 months later we had that sale. So, like I said, if we can do something similar with Technorati, I'll be a pretty happy camper.
Okay, well, good luck to you then.
Thank you.
The team at Technorati, still a startup.
Yes.
Thanks, Richard. I've been speaking with Richard Jalichandra. He's the CEO of Technorati. I'm Bambi Francisco.